Coming up on Network Africa. Kenya's National Police Service says almost 2,000 Kenyan police officers are mentally unfit to do their work. Rwanda Air passenger plane skids off runway at Uganda's Entebbe airport. Plus, South African rescue teams continue search for bodies in flood-ravaged KwaZulu-Natal province. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Teniola Shobowale. We begin in Kenya, where the head of the National Police Service says almost 2,000 police officers are mentally unfit to do their work. Inspector General Hilary Mutyambai says officials have found the surprising number of cases after medically examining all police officers. Kenya has some 100,000 police officers working under the National Police Service. The revelation comes amid rising numbers of depression and suicide within the police force. Mr. Mutyambai says they have started the process of discharging some of the affected police officers from duty, noting the importance of having police who are mentally fit. Meanwhile, Kenyan police have launched a manhunt after the body of a female athlete was found with stab wounds in the town of Iten, famous for its center for long-distance runners. Police say they are looking for the Ethiopian boyfriend of 28-year-old Damaris Mutua, who was born in Kenya but competed for Bahrain. She is the second female athlete to be killed in Iten in a year. Last year, Kenyans were shocked by the killing of Olympic runner Agnes Tirop. Her husband remains in custody and denies murder. The VOA's Victoria Amunga joins us now from Nairobi for more on the situation in the country. Victoria, thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you so much for having me and good evening in Nairobi, Kenya.
So, Victoria, let's begin with the murder of Damaris Mutua. Is there any update on the manhunt launched by the police for her boyfriend?
The police is still looking for the man who's now nowhere to be found, nor nobody knows about him. And the information we have from police is that they are yet to find him, or rather to catch him wherever he is, but they continue to look for him. And some fellow athletes who've been training where the suspect was also training and where he's allegedly committed the murder, is they say that he's been very secretive and not even his trainer is known. That is according to the athlete. So it it may take a bit of time, or from the revelation from the other athletes, they say that he was very secretive and he trained alone. So, even connecting the dots to the person, anybody who might have known about him, that's what the police say they're still doing. And as for now, as we speak, he's still on the run.
And Victoria, it's quite shocking that just last year, Olympic runner Agnes Tirop was also killed in the same region. How are Kenyans reacting to this latest murder?
Kenyans have taken to social media, expressing their disgust to this act, and they are calling on the authorities to ensure that they bring the suspect to book, and because it's since this a similar thing happened, and they say if the authorities don't take a serious action this time, Kenya might experience another death, which they say if this, in case this particular case is going to be handled properly, and then this may just bring a stop to killings of athletes in Kenya. And so they expressed their disgust on social media, and some of the sportsmen and women, and going to social media and just mourning with the family and sending their condolences on social media, and above all asking for justice to be done for the late Damaris.
And in terms of Tirop, who was killed last year, we know her husband remains in custody. Any word on when he's to go on trial?
Ibrahim, the husband to the late Tirop, is in custody and he's expected to be brought to trial next month, that is May 2022. That will be his first trial. Of course, he denied the charges when he was first brought before the court in November 2021. So his trial is expected next month, next month, that is May 2022.
All right, Victoria, let's shift focus to the issue of nearly 2,000 mentally unfit police officers. Officials say they have started the process of discharging them, but what psychological support is being provided for these officers?
On this particular issue, the IG, Hilary Mtiambai, clarified. He said that the 2,000 policemen were found to be almost, unfit to serve because of their mental situation. But he clarified, saying that he cannot fire them because it will be too expensive to fire them. And what he's done right now is the health assessment board that he formed as a health assessment, rather the government formed a health assessment board which really did find these policemen unfit. According to the IG, he says they're almost unfit for service. And so what they're doing right now is to cancel them. They partnered with a Kenyan hospital where these particular police officers are undergoing counseling. They are not out of service yet. The IG says he cannot afford to discharge them off their services because it would cost too much. It will be too costly to discharge 2,000 officers and also hire at the same time. So what they're doing right now is to cancel them. So the government has partnered with the Chiromo Hospital in Kenya, where they're undergoing gradual cancellation, and to ensure that, and those that are going to be recruited next, what the IG said is that in the next recruitment, they will be also looking at the mental status of an officer before you get recruited. And if you pass that and they don't, pick you out from, the recruitment during the recruitment process, then the health assessment board will then follow up before one begins training to ensure that, to ascertain that they are actually mentally 100% fit to work and, or rather to train as police officers. So the IG clarified, said, he cannot fire them for now, but what he's doing is to help them in counseling.
Yeah, and the fact does remain that these reports of rising number of depression and suicide within the police force comes amid reports of low pay and poor living conditions. Apart from counseling, are there any plans to introduce improved welfare to support these officers?
What we've seen the government do in Kenya is to partner with the private sector to build, decent housing, or rather houses for the police, so to improve their housing status. And also we've had the police being given an opportunity to, speak out what is bothering them. Because before we had, we saw policemen being rather just, in the service and that's it. But now we see a lot of welfare. And so the police can actually be taken care of, just as their needs and other social issues can be taken care of under the welfare arrangement within the police force.
All right, then the VOA's Victoria Amunga, thank you so much for the update from Nairobi, Kenya.
Most welcome. Thanks for having me.
Or to some positive news from Kenya now. Over 400 girls from the Maasai community have gone through an alternative rite of passage into adulthood. The ceremony is part of initiatives to stamp out FGM in communities where the practice is still entrenched despite a government ban.
Traditional Maasai culture, girls were expected to undergo circumcision. A 4-day training program was organized by the African Medical and Research Foundation, AMREF, in Kajiado County, the home of the Maasai community, as an alternative to female genital mutilation and early marriage.
I've learned a lot, and I'm able to differentiate between the bad part of our culture and the good part of our culture, which is very good. And I've learned that to protect my kids, my daughters, my cousins, yeah.
At their graduation ceremony, Maasai elders blessed the girls by applying oil on their foreheads and recited traditional rites.
In the name of Jesus, in the name of Jesus, in the name of Jesus.
When we were praying for this girl, there were very old men there. I don't know if you saw them. They were there, our fathers, their grandfathers. So, in fact, they have decided to come and bless the girls to remain uncut. So, if those grannies can embrace that culture, in fact, this thing now has become just a walkover in our community.
Kenya outlawed FGM a decade ago with a punishment of 3 years imprisonment and a $2,000 fine. But the practice persists as some communities see it as necessary for social acceptance and increasing their daughters' marriage prospects. According to the United Nations, 1 in 5 Kenyan women and girls aged between 15 and 49 have undergone FGM, which usually involves the partial or total removal of the female genitalia and can cause a host of serious health problems.
FGM is deeply rooted in our culture, in our Maasai culture. And you cannot uproot a tree not unless you remove all the roots. And yet, we know that change of behavior, change of perception and attitude takes time. So that's why we take that time so that people change attitude, change perception, and then accept now to graduate the girls.
In some cases, girls bleed to death or die from infections, and the practice can also cause lifelong painful conditions such as fistula and fatal childbirth complications. According to the United Nations, FGM threatens 4 million girls annually and is practiced in more than 30 countries, largely in Africa, but also in parts of Asia and the Middle East and by diaspora communities in the West.
Elsewhere in East Africa, a passenger airplane skid off the runway during landing at Uganda's Entebbe airport earlier today. In a statement, Rwanda Air said the incident was as a result of bad weather. All passengers and flight crew disembarked safely with no reported injuries. The aviation regulator said an alternative runway is operational for small and light aircraft. According to local reports, 20 of the 60 passengers on board are scheduled to attend the birthday party of President Yoweri Museveni's son. South Sudan's main opposition political party says it is dissatisfied with recent appointments to a unified armed forces command structure. The Sudan People's Liberation Movement in opposition says there were a number of serious violations in naming the commanders of various army, police and security services units. The appointments were announced by President Salva Kiir last week. The SPLM-IO says President Kiir omitted 3 directorates in the National Police Service that were meant for the opposition. It says the president also created new positions that were not agreed by the parties and appointed his allies to these positions. And still to come on the program. A Nigerian man commences journey to ride his bike from London, Britain to Lagos, Nigeria for charity. More details in a moment. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Back here in Nigeria, the United States Agency for International Development has trained over 50 farmers, mostly women, on various ways through which they can improve their agricultural yields, working with other bodies and institutions such as the Ebonyi State University. The program is aimed at giving women and youths the opportunity to take full advantage of Ebonyi agricultural potentials in order to grow the state's economy.
Placed 34th on the National Gross Domestic Product ranking, a lot more needs to be done to grow the economy of Ebonyi State, and agriculture is seen as a tool to push it further up the GDP growth scale. The United States Agency for International Development is working with other institutions, such as the Ebonyi State University, to improve knowledge and skills of farmers, especially women. Over 50 farmers are being trained on how to get better agricultural yields and get access to affordable farm equipment. According to the Deputy Vice Chancellor Administration at the Ebonyi State University, part of the program is to enlighten farmers on modern agricultural practices.
Because we believe that agriculture has evolved. It's no longer full of drudgery as before. And we found out that that was what drives youth and youngsters away from agriculture because of the drudgery involved there.
Women and youths are taken through some of the rudiments of modern agro techniques capable of giving them better output, particularly use of farming implements.
We are lucky to be among the 5 states selected in Nigeria, and we've chosen Ebonyi State University as the venue for the event. So to train 50 women, and we also have provision for young men who will take on going into agro business, farming precisely, but in more of a mechanized way rather than using the conventional farming system.
After the indoor training, it's time to go outdoors and get a feel of a practical aspect.
So hearing mechanized farming, I mean, this is more like farming for not just your family, for the community, for the society at large. I was really interested, and I found it really fascinating to see that we're looking to mass produce food not only for families but also to feed the nation.
As these women and youths embrace the broader potentials that agriculture offers, they also look forward to getting the desired results of improved agro output.
And over in Somaliland, the United Nations has once again pledged to support efforts to rebuild the Wahine marketplace, which was recently destroyed in a blaze. In addition to providing for the livelihoods of thousands of local residents, the Wahine marketplace was a significant source of revenue for the region, as well as for the overall government revenue.
In central Hargeisa and spread out over 5 square kilometers, the Wahine marketplace was the largest market in Somaliland. It played a vital role in the local economy with an estimated 5,000 businesses present, drawing sellers and shoppers from the city and surrounding communities. It is estimated that the market provided income for 17,000 merchants and workers. Adam Abdelmullah, who also serves as the UN Secretary General's Deputy Special Representative to Somalia and Humanitarian Coordinator for Somalia, visited the area this week.
For the first time, I can say that I'm very unhappy being in Hargeisa. I never said this before. It looks like a war zone. What you see behind me is a devastated city. Hargeisa used to be a center of vibrancy, trade. It used to be a big hub. I recall over 20 years ago, even we in the UN system used to come from Nairobi to shop for some of the electronics from Hargeisa. And to see all of that has been built by these resilient people for over 30 years go up in smoke overnight is truly heartbreaking.
His visit follows a week-long visit by a team of UN technical experts who worked with the Somaliland authorities and the Fire Response Committee to assess the immediate, medium and long-term support needed to help those affected by the blaze. The joint preliminary assessment was presented to international donor partners in a meeting held in Nairobi last week. The UN team and partners are continuing with the collection of data while also jointly working on a more detailed assessment report with Somaliland partners.
This is an opportunity for the rethinking of not only building back better, but also looking at the other markets, which I understand are equally congested, and how can we decongest them? How can we use this opportunity to improve things and do so in a way that would ensure safety, but also sustainability and incorporate best practices.
In addition to providing for the livelihoods of thousands of local residents, the Wahin marketplace was a significant source of revenue for the Hargeisa municipality, as well as for overall government revenue. Somaliland's Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture estimates that the fire accounted for 40 to 50% of the city's economy.
The total loss of property and impact of the fire in the Wahin market has been estimated to be around $1.5 billion to $2 billion. So far, we've received less than $20 million, and so we ask the world to help us in the reconstruction of the market, as well as support to all those who lost property.
Somaliland declared independence from Somalia in 1991, but is not recognized as a state by an international community. Despite this, the region of 3 million people has maintained its own independent government, currency, and security system.
In South Africa, rescue teams are continuing the search for bodies washed away in the eastern KwaZulu-Natal province. At least 448 people have been killed in the floods which devastated the area last week. Thousands of soldiers have been deployed to the province to assist with rescue missions and transporting aid. The floods, among the worst to have affected KwaZulu-Natal province in its recorded history, damaged more than 10 billion rand of infrastructure. Dozens of people are still missing and search and rescue missions continue. The government has declared a national state of disaster. Well, first it was COVID, and now floods have emptied South Africa's eastern beach resorts. As a result of heavy rainfall, some hotels had a third of bookings cancelled last week, and others were forced to close during what is normally the second busiest time of the year.
After 2 years of tourists staying away because of the global health crisis, South African resorts along the popular Eastern Indian Ocean coastline were hoping for a bumper Easter weekend. But torrential rain last week triggered floods and mudslides, killing more than 440 people in and around Durban.
You know, coming out of COVID, Durban, we needed the funding and, the tourists back. So we were getting there. So, these rains caused havoc. It started Monday morning, which we noticed that the soil was coming down. By midday, we evacuated the building. By the afternoon, it was totally evacuated except for one elderly lady who had a knee operation. But later that day or the next morning, we had to get sea rescue to come and remove her from the flat.
Some hotels had a third of bookings cancelled and others were forced to close during what is normally the second busiest time of the year. Provincial authorities said they were expecting around 350,000 arrivals, but got less than half of that number. Tourism remains a big employer in South Africa, which has over 30% employment.
We had a huge bank that collapsed behind the building. With regards to loss of income, part of the building is permanent residence, and then some are holiday homes, and then some are apartments that we let out. So, you're looking loss of income for people that's renting it out. You're looking at average about 20,000 a month.
Africa's southeastern coast is on the front line of seaborne storm systems that were worsened by global warming. Scientists predict storms will get even much worse in coming decades.
And finally on the program, a Nigerian man is riding a motorbike from London to Lagos, Nigeria, to raise funds for charity. Kunle Adeoju tweeted that the 12,000-kilometer ride is expected to last for 25 days. Mr. Adeoju says the money he raises would be spent on health, water and sanitation projects. He would give a 10% match grant for every donation. Well, we wish him the best of luck. And that's the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Teniola Shaboale. Bye for now.